So welcome. Thank you very much for being here. I am Maximo Prieto. He's not. He's Hernán. And I've been teaching thinking for the last 30 years. I still feel as a newcomer to this. And an important part of that journey, I shared it with Hernán. That's why we are here together to talk about this, our experience. And let's start. It was 1987. I was just a programmer working in industry, and I was studying a late career in information systems. I didn't like what I did. I didn't like programming. I found it just boring. And I thought that there must have been something interesting about it. And it was during a coffee break, I was attending a course on algebraic specifications, I think. And during that coffee break, the Spanish professor in charge of the course explained in a few minutes what an object was. And I just thought that was it for me, because he talked about encapsulation. I knew about that. And he talked about message passing. And that was absolutely new for me. And I thought that would be something really interesting to study about, to do some research. And then I spent a couple of years studying by myself about object orientation, and without having many resources, no internet, no books, no papers, no programming languages, no nothing. And well, I think I could develop a reasonable understanding of what object orientation was. That's what I thought at that time. I thought that definitely it was going to have to be a behavioral approach, not a data-oriented approach. And I knew I needed Smalltalk. I didn't know how to get it, but I needed it. So in 1991, I began teaching at the university, my first course, without programming languages, no Smalltalk, no nothing. And I was trying to teach what I was trying to learn at the same time, so it was quite a funny experience. And I got my first Smalltalk about mid-1991, and it was an epiphany. It really was something different. I could really feel what object orientation was, and I could really tell what programming was, because it was something so different what I was doing by that time. And my first Smalltalk was Digitalk Smalltalk for DOS. It was like having the whole universe in just 1 megabyte. It was something so tiny and so beautiful, and it blew my mind. It was really a turning point in my life, not only my professional life, but my thinking life in general. And I decided to use Smalltalk for teaching in the 2 following courses. And I had fun. My students enjoyed and learned, and I enjoyed and learned more than them, I think. And I cannot recall exactly what happened to them about using Smalltalk, because it was all so new to me. But I know that there were a few of them that became teaching assistants, and some of them also came to the industry to program with me using Smalltalk in industry. So it was a good beginning. And the adventure began really here, Universidad de La Plata. That was my base. That was the place I chose to develop my professional career. But my first teaching assignment there was in 1994, and it was a very advanced course, in object-oriented programming. My students had a very good OO background, and and a very good experience using Smalltalk. So it was a huge opportunity to do something really different from other courses. And I decided to take them back to the paradigm, to think again about objects, pure objects. And then we discussed about reflection and metaprogramming. And I decided not to give them traditional things to do, but to build things that were proposed in papers like that one, Self, the Power of Simplicity. So they had to implement Self using Smalltalk, that kind of stuff. So that was really huge for me, and Smalltalk was at full capacity there. I just can't imagine a course like that without Smalltalk, with anything else. And students ended up implementing things they weren't aware they could do. It was not, how can I say, it was not the kind of thing that students used to build during university courses. And then I arrived here at this university, Universidad de Buenos Aires, not this building, but the old one. And that was quite an adventure because students were quite advanced with practical knowledge on OOP and using C++, just the opposite of what I was trying to teach to them. And it was really hard because they were trying to learn something I was not able to provide. And the whole vocabulary I used was completely different from the words they were using. So I decided to become a compiler. I just narrowed down the vocabulary. Nothing like function, attribute, field, data, process, instruction, if, while, etc. I couldn't compile those words. So they were forced to use my vocabulary and try to think using my language. And Smalltalk was essential for that because there was no way to program using those words in Smalltalk. So I could develop, a pedagogical approach about object-oriented thinking, and using Smalltalk was really essential. My goal was to avoid non-conceptual discussions. I don't like talking about technology. I like concepts. I like language. I like thinking, not technology. So I tried to avoid that. And Smalltalk came to the rescue. It was simple, consistent, concrete, paradigmatic. When Dan is here, he told us this many years ago. And at the same time, it was a whole professional development environment. And that was not usual, not even in industry. It was not usual to have that kind of IDE for working. And then came Hernán, first as a student, and then as a teaching assistant. And I think it is interesting to listen to him talking about both sides of the story.
Okay, so that's my part. So yeah, I took this class about object-oriented programming first semester of 1995, and it was terrible. I started, I couldn't understand him. I was a C++ programmer, of course, a good one, I think. Yeah. He doesn't. And it was a war. I hated him. I think he hated me for a long time. But it took me like 2 years to realize that he was right. Yeah, I'm sometimes a hard-head. Anyway, so yeah, it took me two years to realize he was right, to understand Smalltalk, to forget about C++, to understand that C++ was not the greatest language in the world, even though it made me make a lot of money, but it wasn't a great language. So we started to get along, and suddenly I asked him for him to direct my thesis, my master's thesis, twice. I had to do it twice. He didn't want it the first time. He finally accepted, but with the condition I had to write an email to the squid list asking about my idea. So I did that. I sent a...
Because it was not an original idea.
Anyway, so I sent an email asking for help about the idea. It was about method lookup, and yeah, somebody asked me, some Dan Ingles, yeah, asked me and told me that's already developed. You don't have nothing to do there, something like that. But I decided to do the research anyway to finally realize that he was right too. Anyway, so I got my thesis, everything ended happily. And in 2001 or 2 I started teaching with him, with Carlos and Dan in the object-oriented programming subject and advanced design. And we started to make changes because up to that time we were working with papers and doing diagrams. We were not really programming. And we started talking about, why are we doing this? I mean, if this is a small talk. We're teaching small talk. They are only using small talk to do the exercise, the final exercise. Why not teaching with small talk? So we started to teach with small talk, all the classes, all the exercises. We eliminated the diagrams, no more UML, no more things like that. And we also started teaching some of the XP practices, like for example TDD. We started teaching TDD in 2005, and of course because of that we started using the automatic refactorings. We were using VisualWorks at that time, and we started teaching in a more agile way with more feedback. Even the exams are now, well, at that time they were in programming with Smalltalk. And after many years, I started teaching software engineering with the ideas from Po and Dao. And Po and Dao were elective subjects, and now software engineering is a mandatory subject at last. And since 2017, we are teaching every semester at least 60 students about Smalltalk. Yeah. Took some time, but we got there. Okay.
Well, not much to say about when University of Buenos Aires. It was really an adventure. I learned a lot, and I had to make my students learn a lot, and I hope they did. I think they did. And another really interesting experience, it's what we call EMUS, an European Master in Object-Oriented Software Engineering. I was one of the founders of this career. It was a collaboration between Europe and Latin America. We had students and teachers from different countries, so different cultures, different backgrounds, different knowledge. And the most interesting thing about this is that we decided not to give an introductory course on object-oriented programming because we kind of knew the kind of students we were going to have. But after two rounds of 2 years of this career, we had a workshop during a conference in Lisbon, and I gave a talk about how I taught object-oriented programming using Smalltalk, and all the teachers asked me to give an introductory course on object-oriented programming using Smalltalk for this master degree, and it was great. It was absolutely great because I could prove that my ideas were international, not just Argentinian, and because the teachers that came after me to teach things like metaprogramming and reflection, not in Smalltalk, with other kind of languages, but they were grateful because the students got there with the basic knowledge to do some real stuff. So it was really a very interesting adventure as well. And then Universidad of Quilmes, the Quilmes, where I am now, a professor there. It was my first freshman course. It is a very introductory course. And the thing I think it's more important there is that we also faced a very huge challenge teaching object orientation using a class-based environment, because it is a lot of things you need to know to get to program something, to get something running. And so here at Universidad de Quilmes, we decided to use a tool that was developed by some guys at Universidad Tecnológica Nacional here in Buenos Aires. It was called Ozono. It was an object-based, not class-based environment. It was not exactly what I was looking for, but it was great for the first 2 or 3 courses we gave with this. And at some time, Hernán, that was here at Universidad de Buenos Aires, decided to switch from Faro to Quiz. Quiz was developed by Juan Buletich, and well, Hernán will talk about that in a minute. And I was willing to follow Hernán with this idea, but I needed something like Ozono, and I didn't want to migrate Ozono to Quiz because I had some other ideas about the design of the tool. And we talked with Hernán, and we came up with this tool we called the notative objects, and a sub distribution of Quiz, which we call Quiz University. And it was great because in, let's say, 2-3 hours introductory talk, students could start programming without having much concepts. So it was really great. And well, I think Hernán can take about this experience.
Yeah, before I talk about that, I forgot to mention something. When we changed the way we were teaching, the impact on the students was great, was amazing. I mean, sometimes we don't realize there is a phrase that Alan Kay says all the time, that somebody said it, not him. I don't know who discovered water, but it was not a fish on Casa Herrero Cuchillo de Palo. So basically, we were teaching objects and all the ideas of smalltalk, but we were not using it. We were not using the tools, and it was like many years until we realized, hey, why don't we use smalltalk all the time? And again, the experience was great, and I think that students could really, really understand the ideas behind smalltalk and object orientation. About the notative objects, we were teaching in a company. I remember we were, students were working, doing something, and we started thinking about how to implement this. And I said, maybe if we use classes as objects, and we limit the object browser just to show classes instead of the instance side, we can make it work. And we did it in about 10 minutes, the first prototype, and that's what Smalltalk has. The ability to easily and quickly implement an idea and see if it works, and it was amazing. After that, I spent, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 finishing up the tools, limiting how the browser shows certain things. We also changed the debugger only to see the methods that are part of the notative objects. And doing some special stuff, like for example, if you have an inspector on the notative object and you inspect it again, it will show the same inspector. It's not going to open a new inspector, and those kind of things to make you feel like in an object-oriented environment. That allows us, as Maximo said, to start teaching programming with the Smalltalk syntax without any restrictions, and going from the notative objects to a class-based tool is completely fluid. There's no problem. There is no conflict. It's the same syntax. The only thing is they have a new button in the browser, and they see more stack frames in the debugger.
It was exactly the same tools and exactly the same language, and also with TDD. So it was great. We could do exactly the same thing. And the notative objects is a prototype-based environment, a complete prototype, a la self. So it's great,
Yeah.
all in one place.
Yeah, even we have parent, that is of course super, but it's called parent. Anyway, yeah, about TDD, I think we also, it was a really good idea to start teaching TDD because the development feedback is really fast. You know, it allows you to develop in an iterative and incremental way, doing step by step. And well, I think that's what I feel. It's very close to what the Smalltalk idea is behind. What can I say about quiz? Well, I'm very happy of switching to quiz. The quiz was developed by Juan. Juan was a student of Maximo, and it's an Argentinian distribution, and it's fast, reliable, stable, and the good thing also is that it's eager for new features. So we started to add new features like, for example, live typing, the automatic refactorings. We created a new refactoring framework that allows, well, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, the notative objects, etc. And again, the good thing about this is that I could start giving students new assignments and worked in their thesis, like, for example, implementing refactorings like Fernando is going to show in the next talk, using live typing or not, complex refactorings, tools to see if you are doing TDD or how you're doing TDD, like TDD Guru, implementing live typing in a COG VM, Teslin, well, many things. And not only students, but also people that like quiz, like Nico, that did a coverage tool and quiz finder. And the nice thing is that at the subject, we always tell the students that if they contribute to quiz or to quiz university with something, they will get 1 point more in the final note. So, and sometimes 2. And that's a way to, promote the research, because that's the cool thing about Smalltalk. Everything is there. That's something we try to tell them all the time. Not all students are eager to research. I don't know why. I think that depends on each personality, and that's fine. And that makes me think that the tool is not the problem. The people is the problem. But the good thing is that those that are willing to do research, they have everything at hand and they can do it very easily. And I had students that changed, for example, the editor or added new refactorings, those kind of things on the 3rd year of the career. And that's amazing. That's simply amazing. They can do small things very fast with a big impact, and that's great. So yeah, that's what can I say about this and everything.
Well, we are still doing this, and we are still teaching and learning using Smalltalk because, in my opinion, Smalltalk is still a learning environment. That's what I feel whenever I use it. And we want to teach concepts, as I already said, not tools, not technology, but concepts. Okay. And we don't have the accidental complexity of other languages. It's really straight away to program with Smalltalk. The meta model is just an object model, so nothing new there, just objects collaborating, sending messages to each other. And something that was really funny, that I was crazy enough to ask about the meta model in a final exam.
Yeah,
so,
my one.
Yes. So that was really strange to have an exam where you have to talk about a meta model and you have to explain it as it is explained in the Blue Book, okay? And, well, the ability to learn about programming languages as well, because programming languages is not my specialty. I knew nothing about programming before Smalltalk, but everything is there. Everything is an object, so it was so easy for me to understand what a programming language was and how it worked, and how to show this to my students. Then when we know that it takes some time to some kind of students with some kind of background to get to play with Smalltalk and feel comfortable, but in the end, it pays a lot. And then, well, programming is definitely not writing text. That's what I thought before knowing about Smalltalk, but I could not prove it. But now I know it very well. When I program, I don't write text. I just inspect objects. I love my inspectors. I need inspectors, not editors. Okay. And well, the IDE is still the best available, in my opinion. Of course, I already said this, but it is still a learning environment, isn't it? And Dan, this question is for you, but Smalltalk creators, have you ever thought about using Smalltalk for teaching or learning programming? Yes. Okay, then I would like to listen about that. Thank you. If somebody told us...
Maybe I'd like to add some stuff for something that happens all the time when we teach each semester is that at the beginning students are reluctant to use Smalltalk because it's not used in the professional life. There are not many projects, in the industry with Smalltalk and so on. And yes, I tell them, yeah, you're not going to get rich with Smalltalk. I didn't. You're not going to make it. You're not going to be rich. But it's those of the languages that you have to learn because they will make you think differently. They will open your mind. And at the end of the semester, we run a survey, and almost everybody, says that they enjoy learning Smalltalk, and it was a good idea, even though at the beginning they didn't think about that. And they're really thankful for learning Smalltalk. So I think it's still a great decision, and we will keep doing and teaching with Smalltalk.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do next.
Sorry.
Yeah, if somebody told us to switch to another language or to another environment, one of us would definitely quit. You can try to guess who. And as Hernán said, there's no better way to learn Java or some other language than using Smalltalk for learning about object-oriented programming. It's really interesting to know that because when I was at Universidad de La Plata, many of my students were working with me in Smalltalk, but we had to switch to Java for some of our clients. But my students did it in 1 week, maybe, something like that. It was easy for them because they knew how to think using objects and without worrying about technology. And then, well, it is a paradigmatic environment, not just a fad. It is something, it is still the future, in my opinion. It is still the future. Completely open source, good free distributions, well, Quiz, Faro, Squeak. Neither installation nor registration needed for anything. Just a few seconds to download, maybe 100 megabytes. I think Quiz University is something like 70 megabytes, so you can download it and just run it and begin programming in just 1 second, 2 seconds. That's it. Everything you need in a nutshell. And okay, we can always have VS Code, you know about that, but not exactly free, not exactly open, and not exactly a professional IDE. So that's something I think it is really important, not just learning programming, but learning programming using a professional environment. At the university, to me, it is just essential. And I think this is it.
There's only one thing I would like to mention, that it's about public universities that allow us to select the technology we want to use. There is no pressure, no path that are imposed to us, and I think that's very important. I think
It is, yes.
small talk is strong in Argentina. Thanks to the public university that allow us to select the technology we want.
So this is our celebration, and so thank you very much.
I was going to put Maximo's picture there because I think almost everybody here is here because of him. So, Maximo, thank you. We don't have time for questions. I know. So,
did the students get an extra point if they say that they actually liked the small talk at the end?
No. No.
No. We finally managed to understand when they were lying. So, no. Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.